All right, Dr.
Put actin.
Me too.
All right, actin binds to myosin. Okay, so actin I think was the correct term. Okay, it's actin, myosin. Let's look at the components of a muscle cell. What are these lines? Those are the actin and myosin. Okay, so you have your thin filaments and your thick filaments. When we look at the electron micrograph, this is just a cartoon. So this is the mitochondria, and then was the blue.
Network and junctional sarcoplasmic reticulum.
Yes, the SR. SR is going to hold all the calcium. So when your motor neuron fires, it's received by the SR. The SR is a membrane. It's going to depolarize and release calcium. That's going to trigger the action potential. Sorry, not trigger the action. Trigger the actin and myosin to move. So all of these components are in there. But if we look at the micrograph, it's mostly the actin and myosin filaments. They're just covered everywhere. So what uses ATP?
What was your number before?
17.
No, the other one.
20.
Okay, Dr. Chair.
Myosin heads for sure. Sarcoplasmic reticulum.
I'm not really sure.
Is there any ATP bound to the thin filaments? No.
No.
We only use ATP on the myosin heads during the cocking motion, okay? And then we use ATP in one other location. Where is that? The SR. What in the SR uses ATP? Dr. Church. What does it use ATP in the SR?
Active transport?
Active transport of what?
Calcium.
Calcium pumps. Excellent.
Calcium pumps.
All right, keep going.
is a cardiac. Yeah, so it's so you're saying no, it's
I think Ford's kind of asked about mitochondria. It's like, would they need more energy? Yeah. But this one's that sounded like
But that's like the same as lab, so they like more extreme than what we do. But like Cassie's not really in that position. Like their muscles are stay contracted. So that's all I can do. I don't know the Would it be one muscle, the contractor, muscles or whatever?
Which has more and then in the
Wow. Specific muscles?
what is it? Leave it as
It says which specific muscle but since a lot of it uses the
Can we think of any activities or anything like that that requires a really, really fast muscle? Maybe running and sprinting, maybe. But there's things that require really fast muscles. What? Heart could require some cardiac really fast. What are some other things? Can we think of anything that are faster maybe?
reactions.
What? Certain reactions, right? So what type of muscles in the real world? Any other animals? What other animals are really fast? Jaguars. Do you think they have different types of muscles? Probably.
Would it be like an animal that's like a prey?
Could be. But could there even be things like your ciliary muscles in your eyes? Do you think those are really, really fast? Those are really fast.
They are.
They are. What about like rattlesnake? Rattlers. Things like that are really fast muscles. Those are fast twitch muscles. Hummingbirds. Okay? So there's slow twitch, fast twitch, and intermediate twitch. Most likely running is intermediate twitch. Okay? Especially in humans. Humans are not well designed to run fast. were very well designed to run for
Long time.
long distances. Okay. Keep going. Yeah, right there in the bucket.
How come my dog's not taking classes and have to get a unfair. Like Martha's house. Oh, dude, one time I got put down on nine because I forgot how to do it. And so I started there trying to learn how to do it. Yeah. I think that my brain becomes aware of my body. Was that our class?
Bat wings and bats So even like your eyes, those are really fast muscles. So if you can move your ears and your cat, really fast. Oh yeah. We have fast muscles. So do you know like certain cats' reflexes and muscles like the hands and paws are the fastest muscles? So like a cat fighting a rattlesnake, cats win their arm. So that's just really fast. Hence cats are really good predators. Yeah, well, we humans like to get things chunky.
Oh, is it something? I love it.
What kind of extreme task somewhere in the animal kingdom might require the muscle cells to have much more SR than human skeletal muscles typically have? What did you say?
For which question?
A5.
Repeated contraction and contraction of muscles. So I said like in birds.
Like quick contraction?
No, just repeated contraction and uncontraction.
Repeated contraction and uncontraction.
Yeah, they ended up, they ended up.
So wherever you go for undergrad, that's fine, it's your choice.
She was like,
And you're gonna apply your
That's crazy.
wouldn't let him sit the way of plug on the same bond.
He's not even that attractive either. How is?
Oh, sorry, I didn't insult you.
I like the actor. Like the character.
And it's fine. She really was.
Yeah. Also, like, I don't know. I feel like the thing like guys is the opposite of that. Like the girl is skinny
All the
and fat, like
requirements
the
all
camera or whatever. Yeah, because I had it.
I only know that I never watched this
Oh, me.
She tells us like he was literally torn between life, her, and she tells him about the elevator.
I don't know
Over
why.
his wife? He leaves his wife for him? Isn't she like 20 years
It's fine, he does in a very exit.
in a ferry? What is happening in this show?
Literally.
It's like sweet Cheeto, but it's also like, best friend.
What?
But he should forgive me, like, you know, like.
Honestly, yeah. I feel like it's worse that your friend thought your wife was cheating on you rather than your wife is cheating on you, to be honest.
None of
I
you
feel
are
like I'd be
using
more
it.
upset with my friend than my wife.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
that's crazy. So more of that show.
Totally wrong.
Thank you. It's like 40 seasons. I can't do that. I struggle with more than 5 seasons of a TV show. It's so wild. I think like
Like, I saw a bit of a that and the rest.
I think it's because super fast have your breasts longer than because of I don't know. There's like too fast like like faster it is. Yeah, no, I got to the point where that person died in the car crash and like by like a bus hitting him or whatever, they didn't know who it was.
Okay, a couple more questions for you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
I hated George, but when he died, like,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
Did we just?
Okay. Not doing so great on this one. So let's talk to each other.
I got the neck of the myosin straightens and the head pivots to the cock position.
That's what I had as well.
A is wrong. Let's go with that. A is wrong. So let's move on. Try to figure it out.
Did you hear anything like a definitely
Definitely wrong. The sliding motion where it can cock is not done by ATP. It's done by calcium. So what does ATP do? It releases it. Excellent. B is the correct answer. So what is rigor mortis? No. Death is death. What is rigor mortis?
Constant.
Muscles bind and cannot be
Uncontracted.
released. Why can they not be released? There's no more ATP because you've already ran out of ATP.
Your 2 seconds were off.
Next question.
Grey's Anatomy?
I've watched it.
What was your favorite season? I don't even know
Aren't there like 25 seasons?
There's okay, that's less than what I thought it was. Didn't like the main character
10 seconds.
like the main girl, right?
All right, I'll give you a hint. It's definitely not slow. That eliminates 30%.
You guys, that wasn't.
What did you get?
Cheetahs are not marathon runners. All right. Probably everyone in here could outdistance a cheetah. That's not the problem. Cheetahs are very, very fast. You're already dead 10 feet back. Okay? Because they have
Fast twitch.
You have
Intermediate.
to slow twitch. Okay? Are you really fast?
No.
Now, you, compared to Usain Bolt, maybe he has more fast twitch. Means he is more likely to outsprint you. Well, probably can outdo all of it. But let's just imagine he can outsprint you, but you are, somebody who's done a lot of cross country for some ungodly reason, you can probably outrun him in distance. Okay? Because there's you can't, okay? I'm just, let's just end with this. But let's say you can, okay? Because you have more slow twitch and intermediate. You also have other adaptations like, what can we do? What can we do to the muscles? What can your body do? You ever looked at somebody who runs marathons, look at their legs? They usually don't have muscle. Okay, so talk to you, what happens to those legs?
One thing, it looks like they're thinned out or hard.
Somebody who runs marathons all the time, what's with their veins and capillaries and very visible. Why? Yeah. They are. Ungodly reasons, I don't know. Okay, so they have more capillaries and more vascular because do you need more fluid and more energy being delivered to them? Yes. Somebody who does lots of long distance, what's going to happen to those mitochondria? You're going to get more of them, right?
More mitochondria.
More mitochondria. Now, long-term changes, like developing new fast twitch, that's geologic time. That's long-term evolution. But adaptations in the moment, if you can exploit your genes, we can do that. Okay, so let's look at this here. Myofibrils, that's the amount of actin-myosin. Okay, that's the actual filaments. When we look at something that's super, super fast, like a rattlesnake, okay, or your cat's reflexes and eyes. So if you actually have watched these videos, a cat, like your house cat battling a rattlesnake, the cat wins every time. Cats are really fast, super fast twitch. How many SR do they? How much SR do they have?
25.
A lot. Okay. How fast do we need to be able to release that calcium and reuptake it? Really fast.
Really fast.
Okay? Release it fast, reuptake it really quickly. If you are a slow twitch muscle, do I need a lot of SR?
No.
No. But I need a lot of myofibrils.
Myofibrils.
Slow twitch is things like when you're lifting, you're deadlifting, all of that weight, bench press. You're not going up and down really fast. That's stupid. You're going slow. Those are slow twitch. Those are strong muscles. What about mitochondria? Talk to each other. What would you interpret in a long distance marathon runner and a sprinter?
They would have a lot of mitochondria, I believe. In order to go pretty fast, they need a lot of mitochondria.
I think a long distance would have more mitochondria.
Yeah.
Fast twitch, you're going to have a lot of
Mitochondria.
mitochondria. Long distance runners. We're putting fluid, your blood is putting more glucose into there. So maybe have a few more mitochondria, probably not. Okay, it's going to be more adapted to long term, like cardiac muscle. Okay, what does your cardiac muscle do? Pumps all the time. Because what happens when it stops pumping? Bad things, right? So it's going to be doing things all the time. So how much vascular tissue is attached to the heart? Lots of vascular tissue. All right, if you have a heart attack, it's probably in your vascular tissue connected to the heart. Okay, so that's the different components when we look at this. Okay, questions? All right. When you get to this one, draw it.
Tracker me your length.
When you get to it, draw it. Not there yet. Good.
I think I skipped that one. I just skipped that one.
Yeah,
I have no clue. Yeah.
So I guess, not sure, but I guess the same medical.
Or wait, sorry. Oh, no, yeah. Alright, so the blue one's the.
Not what I was thinking.
What did you say for B2?
I said that the light was the actin and the dark was the myosin.
Who is what to do the answer? I was like, is the thing filming? It doesn't really look like it.
Yeah, I just didn't go in the ditch and I didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
I just decided here, changes. We're gonna grab on the back.
Yeah.
I don't know where to sit. Hard to grab I said no, and then I flipped the page to see like grab, and then once it said the length, I was like, yeah, I have to change
I just stare at. I don't see anything moving.
Yeah.
I guess they can really flex your arm. Flexing backwards was so much fun. From their favorite hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to. The word length is throwing me off.
I just said it because I told you this, but that's totally wrong. Just know it.
I'm so scared.
Should we use our phone calls?
guys. This says to compare on the worksheet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
Oh,
You just want to make
my
sure
God.
that you're not being limited to one
I
program.
thought it was like a little slip down.
That's my only concern with it.
Oh, okay, I switched the text.
Is it possibly because you said size?
I did it wrong because I started high.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys suck.
All right. Let's talk about the sarcomere. I'm going to do the cheapest demo we can possibly do. Thin filament, thick filament. Okay? This is the size of the sarcomere, like this. Okay? So there's a little overlap. When a contraction happens, what happens to the size of the sarcomere?
It gets shorter.
It gets shorter. Did the filaments change size?
No.
Did they change shape?
No.
No. All it did was they overlap.
Oh.
That is how it works.
Overlap.
That is a sliding filament. Okay, so actin and myosin slide over each other. That is a contraction. Okay, so thin filaments are actin, thick filaments are,
Myosin.
that's it. And then there's SR in the back.
Are you on a length tension curve?
Yeah. Is the sarcomer's length graph, is it potential of force? Like,
It's just force is acting upon it.
okay, so like the fully contracted will have a greater amount of force than the uncontracted.
Maybe. Think about that one. It's not true. Actually.
No, yes.
I can't. Because you were yawning as you're doing this. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell she's doing.
How did you do it?
I was thinking that I guess something from your face. I got something.
It's not you, it's Google. I'm just trying to understand this.
I don't understand it.
Ricky made it more confusing.
I guess it's like an optimal length right here. Like this is like an optimal length. Does it?
All right, let's take like 1 more minute for this question.
That's what I. So like, I know like Tourette's like also like like oh no, Tourette's like is it also kind of like nervous?
Contrary to belief, I'm not an expert in everything.
You're so boring, dude. You're supposed to be. Or I'm supposed to get stupid answers from. I'm against school right now with their stupid AI thing that answers every single question. I'm sorry. It bothered me at first when it was just like, it would like answer it like the first thing that pops up, but now it's like when we go down to like the extra questions that people also ask, it adds more AI and it needs to be on the website.
I really wish I was.
I had a question about senses. So that's like senses. So there's that like genetic disorder where like people like can hear color or like no okay. Because like don't the the brain has different regions for the senses. Those 2 PhDs are doing a lot of work for you.
Yeah, just on that level. All right. Let's imagine this is a really heavy gold bar, okay? I'm grabbing it and leaving it, never coming back, okay? I go to pick it up. How much force am I applying right now? None.
None.
Very little. And then I apply more and more and more and more and more and more, and then less. This is a parabolic. Okay? So max force is here. So if you want to do your like working out and get max muscle strength, when do you have the max amount of force? When you're about midway extended.
I've never lifted weights.
Oh my.
Yeah, guys, I go to the gym all the time.
All right. So now let's apply some logic to this as well. Close on the last one. Ashby let her mark on them. All right, 5 seconds. Okay, Dr. Church.
What did you get?
I put D.
Additional neurons begin stimulating each muscle fiber. I pick more calcium is available in the sarcoplasm. I don't think that makes sense.
I have no idea. It could be NF.
How
I'm not
does,
sure.
so I got my gold bar here, and we got this lightweight pen. I go to pick them up. How does my body know to respond to picking up different heaviness?
More
Resistance.
More recruitment of motor neurons.
motor neurons. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to respond. So this requires a lot more recruitment than this does. Okay, so your brain will send an action potential down. It will recruit so many motor neurons. Pick up a heavy object, you can recruit more of them.
Rate of ATP use versus like, okay.
Alright, Dr. Shelley, consensus answer in. 30 more seconds. Get your answer in. Doctor.
I do not like this game.
Alright, we are all over the place. Excellent. People do get the answer correct.
Really?
Yes, yes. So,
Who are you?
this is wrong.
Oh.
Talk to each other. Why is that wrong?
Because
Like someone's ATP used in the moment when like they stop, like when they connect and when they like to separate, they release ATP to separate, so it stops making sense.
What is ATP doing? Releasing the myosin head.
releasing the myosin.
Which needs to be released more? That or that? This. This is a linear.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Kind of. Mine was more slow.
Yeah, no, mine was definitely more slow, but you know what? I got that idea.
It's okay.
All right, so to recap. All right. So what changes?
Saccharin line?
Actin filament, myosin filament. Did the lengths of the filaments change?
No.
No, the length of the sarcomere changes. Does the length of the area occupied by only myosin change? Yes. Does the length only occupied by actin change? Yes. Therefore, B is correct, D is correct, and E is correct. So here's the myosin head. What structural levels do we have present?
All
All structural levels. How many proteins were involved in making this?
a lot.
Three colors, right?
3 proteins,
That's 3 subunits.
3 subunits.
Therefore, quaternary structure, how many genes? 3.
3 genes.
Okay? How many N termini?
3 and
3.
Three.
Jesus. How many C termini?
3
There we go. Alright. So ATP binds the myosin head, causing it to change its stereo orientation. That releases from the actin. Okay, then they can move forward and bind again. All right, time to share.
I picked intracellular calcium levels would decrease.
So we are going to release the calcium and not reuptake it to the SR. Therefore, it will increase.
Increase. Duh.
Next question. More seconds. Two, one. Talk to each other.
I picked a quarter of the daughters of an affected father and a carrier mother would have this condition. What did you get?
Oh, done.
But it's very rarely. So basically, it's affecting X chromosome.
How likely is it for a woman to have this condition? So for a woman to have this condition, they have to be born by a parent who has it, because dad must have it. And then mom must be a carrier of that. What is the likelihood of that ever happening? Never. E.
Very rarely.
X-linked trait never will show up in women. Or show up in men, not women. ATP hydrolyzes and catalyzes and allows it to the cocking motion to move forward and to slide, releasing it from the binding. So what happens? A motor neuron is fired. An action potential is sent out in the axon. That axon is going to release acetylcholine. That's going to bind to the SR, causing the SR to depolarize, releasing calcium. Calcium then is going to go in and bind to all of the actin filaments, and that is going to allow the heads to slide down across, creating a contraction. More calcium, longer, harder contraction. You would need ATP to release the myosin head. Okay? Right? Talk to each other, and when you go through and talk to each other, define, tell me what each one of these things are and where they're released.
I picked acetylcholine.
Yes, I did as well.
Basically, looking at the example in the text, which he had up there, action potential arrives at the end of motor neuron, triggering the release of acetylcholine.
So, motor neuron fires. Sodium is released between the gap junctions along your myelinated cells. So, that's inside the axon. Acetylcholine is released at the neuromuscular junction. That is the neurotransmitter, so A is the correct answer. B does what? Makes it. What does D do? It's released in the SR to allow contraction to take place.
Released in the sacrifice.
Going. seconds. I might have misspoke on the acetylcholine esterase a second ago. I think I just took a read and was like, yeah, that. It breaks it down, not fixes it. Okay, so breaks it down. Yeah. I think I just took a read and was just like, yeah, that.
I thought since it's an enzyme, it either breaks it down or it breaks it down.
So it will not break it down, therefore acetylcholine will accumulate, therefore you'll get too many muscle contractions. The SR would release, so. So, you're running a bunch, you get a leg cramp. What is the leg cramp from? So you're building lactic acid buildup because what process is not taking place quick enough?
The
Respiration.
respiration.
You're running out of ATP. And so if you run out of ATP and then you take like a Charlie horse horses can be in two different forms. One, you have a lot of calcium being released. You're just full on contraction. Second one is you run out of ATP and can no longer release the heads and cannot slide back. So it cannot relax. Other problems can take place like knots in muscles. Myosin heads can literally be fixed onto it. It can, where it just will not move. This is where manipulation actually does come in handy. So massage is a good way to do this. About 10 seconds. So what gets released? Acetylcholine gets released and binds where? To the membrane of the SR on receptors, which then releases calcium.
Mm-hmm. So, you have three types of muscles: smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and skeletal muscle. We just did skeletal muscle. Cardiac muscle, fairly similar to skeletal muscle. Contains everything. The only difference is it's not controlled by motor neurons. Cardiac muscle is controlled by its own synapses. So it has pacemaker cells. And we'll talk about that when we do the heart. But essentially, it governs the contractions of the heart. Smooth muscle. This is going to help regulate the movement of food, things like that, and arteries. So arteries in your veins and all that are smooth muscle. And so
what we can do is we can contract in a motion downwards to push something through. That's like if you swallow something. That's how your food gets pushed down. We can mix it by bringing them together and churn them. You can just contract and compress as well. Arteries are muscles. Why are arteries muscles? What do you need to do with your blood? You need to pump it. Excellent. So your heart is pumping it, and then what happens in your body? Do you need to regulate the pressure of that?
Yeah.
How can we regulate the pressure of that? With arteries. If it's a muscle and I crimp down on it, what happens to the pressure? It goes up. If I relax, it goes down. Here's the worst thing about this. You're using a chainsaw and you cut off your leg. Okay? So you stick a belt on it and you think you're good. You're going to still bleed to death. Because what happened to that artery? It gets retracted back up. If you ever popped a muscle or popped a tendon, what happens to it? It recoils like a band. It goes up the leg. So if somebody ever cuts their hand off or their arm off or their leg off, your job to save their life is to reach in, pull down the artery, then cap it and clamp it. That's how you save people's lives. If you cannot handle that, you are no longer in the method to be a doctor or a nurse. So, how do you find an artery? They are tubes. They're big. So your aorta, you can stick your thumb in. Okay? It is very big. The ones in your legs are at least the size of like your index finger. They're very, very large. So if this ever happens, you never know the shit that happens in the world, right? Somebody does something, you cut off a limb in an accident, whatever it is. Immediately people think, oh, apply compression. You stop the bleeding, you're compressing, You need to go way further up the leg. So if you cut off here, you need to stop the bleeding up here.
How do you reach that?
No, that's where you put like the belt up here. Okay? That artery is somewhere right there. Yeah. So, if you have enough time and you are quick enough, you reach up and grab immediately and you can hold it in place so it won't retract up. This is the same problem if you've ever blown a tendon. Okay? They recoil and they contract up, and those muscles will contract up, and they immediately start atrophying because you can never use them again. Because you don't have a tendon, it can't connect to the bone, so it's went up in your arm. So let's say you tore your bicep, or you broke it, okay? That muscle has retracted up. The tendon has recoiled down. If you do not fix it in a very short period of time, we're talking a couple of weeks, it's done. It's over with. It probably is not going to get rebuilt. So, Russell Wilson goes and tears his tendon in his thumb during that game a few years ago. What happened that day? Does anybody follow football? What happened that day? He did something very remarkable happen. He had surgery within like 3 hours. Okay, it's normally for like you guys, it would take 6 months to heal. They did it within 3 hours, and he healed within like 3 weeks. Because they stuck him on a jet that within minutes and flew him to California, where he had surgery by the best surgeon in the world to reattach that, and they used cool new techniques like microsurgeries and stuff. They're not cutting open like they do to you guys. You know, we're talking millions of dollar surgeries, not thousands. And get things done. An IUD goes off, and you're a medic in the military. You have to save your person's life. You have to reach down and clamp that artery. Tourniquet. Tourniquet is applied after you clamp the artery.
So you're saying
Yeah.
somebody wants to talk.
We use a different algorithm.
Will you guys clamp a second?
It's so massive. Yeah, you tourniquet first, and then you get them off the X. X meaning effective fire.
Okay.
So you get them off fire,
Then you
and then you do the rest of the other assessment, just like EMT do.
Okay.
It's a little different.
Yeah, so most medics that I've known that work in that clamp is number one. Remove, clamp, tourniquet. So, because if you tourniquet and you don't clamp, they still die. So it doesn't do any good. Yeah, unless you can get them immediately to a hospital, but you need to get them to Nuremberg or something like that, typically in 80 hours.
So, what do you mean by clamp? Because I'm imagining like a little clip bag. You know,
There's a
like
clip
little-
bag, you clamp.
Okay.
Yeah,
Literally.
you clamp.
Okay.
So you're saying like if somebody is like gonna like let's say they have to have the like cut off like down here to like clamp up here to like prevent the retraction,
Yeah.
so when it retracts it.
Well, it's just you're stopping the bleeding.
I don't know what the deal with this with ball, but I'm saying this have a logic also applies to like animals as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Everything, veterinary science, you name it. There's a smooth muscle.
What, like, cause I know you brought up like Charlie horses. Is it like the same with like muscle spasms?
Muscle spasms can be many different things. One can be just your nervous system is hyperactive. That's the most common. All right. Defecation, childbirth. Your bones are not fused together. Your hips and everything are held. You got a clamp?
I was looking up little diagrams to see how they do it.
Yeah. It's usually, we actually have some of the clamps in class, in lab. They kind of look like scissors, but they're not. And they go together and they, once you put them down, they act like vice grips and they just clamp in place. So your skeletal muscle is held in place with muscles. Okay? You're going to have child. We need to expand the hips. We need to loosen those things up. So one of the things they don't tell you about early on, and late trimester, third trimester, the hormones are starting to act. And so what that is doing is it's loosening up all those muscles. Your joints become loose. Your hips become loose. That's because all of those things are starting to happen. The muscles are relaxing. So massive relaxation of the muscles. Same thing happens with, these are your, brain just died. Sphincters. So your sphincters get relaxed as well. Okay, it's the simplest words that. All right, talk to each other.
Diaphragm and intercostal.
Who was it in the van that was just nailing this? Was it Carrie? Who was it that was just listening off all the muscles?
Yeah, it was Carrie.
Carrie. She's like, hell no. I was like, yeah. So what's the answer?
No.
She's like, I don't remember. She's like, I remember 10 minutes after I did it in the van. 3.
I just looked at the words at my profile.
I did too. basically even. Talk to sure.
I picked extension of the leg at the knee.
Alright, let's eliminate a couple. Clearly it's not this. We're not on the foot. Okay, so we're eliminating that one. And does any player hyperextend? No, that's another injury in itself, so we can eliminate A. Okay? So then the question becomes, is it behind the leg or in the front of the leg? What's this say? So therefore the correct answer is 2. Alright? Okie dokie. Tomorrow, I'll be on Zoom about 10 and again about 12:30 to talk to your guys' groups if you need to talk. At this point, you guys should be really putting together a plan, have your groups, and be starting to think about that timeline. And if we need to start ordering stuff, I need to start knowing really soon.
What? Yeah, we're meeting on Friday.
TOEFL exam is again. You'll be fine. Like, you do not need to study. Yeah, this will go. So, okay. Yeah, we can talk after that. Like Zoom or whatever. Or, yeah, or just message me and find your time tomorrow. Or tonight.
Yeah, I'm free.
Like, I'm good. The amount of excitement I have in my life is 0. So,
Is he the bigger brother?
if you want to meet tonight, we can meet tonight by Zoom. Okay. Sounds good.